When looking at a leg, we do a similar thing as we did with the arm. One, compartmentalize it into different compartments that do different actions. Two, look at the joints. So look at what affects the hip joint and what muscles affect the knee joint, and then what muscles might affect the ankle joint. We did that with the arm. We looked at muscles that move the humerus by crossing the shoulder joint. We looked at muscles that move at the elbow by crossing the elbow joint. And then we looked at muscles that move at the wrist. So what we have here is an anterior view of the thigh. Muscles in this compartment are either going to act at the hip joint or they're going to act at the knee joint. The first one to mention is called the iliopsoas. The iliopsoas is a hip flexor, or flexes the thigh at the hip. It's got two compartments. It's got the iliacus and the psoas, but this would be the iliacus, this is the psoas. We're going to know it as the iliopsoas. And notice it crosses the hip anteriorly. And if you cross the hip anteriorly and contract, you will flex at the hip joint. The next muscle is called the rectus femoris. And notice it's shown here in a different color text because it is one of the four members of the quadricep femoris group. The quadricep femoris group are going to flex as well, so flex at the hip joint, so the rectus femoris can do that, but also act at the knee joint. So the rectus femoris actually crosses both the hip and the knee, and it's going to cause flexion at the hip, but extension at the knee. So the rectus femoris is named based on the fact that it runs parallel to the midline of the thigh. It's been cut away here, but this muscle runs parallel to the midline of the thigh, and we often use the word femoris pertaining to the femur, which is your large thigh bone. Rectus femoris. Then you have the three vastus muscles. The vastus lateralis, the vastus intermedius, and the vastus medialis. Those are your four quadricep femoris muscles. They all have different origins, but they share a single tendon right here called the quadricep femoris tendon. And then that tendon extends distal to the kneecap and inserts at the tibial tuberosity. And these three really just cross that knee joint. They don't cross the hip joint, so they are not hip flexors, but they are knee extenders. They straighten your knee out. They extend the knee. So the quadricep muscle group insert at the tibial tuberosity via the patellar tendon or patellar ligament, which is right here. There's another muscle in the anterior compartment. It's not a member of the quadriceps because it does not share that tendon. It does cross both joints. It crosses the hip joint as well as the knee joint, so it acts at both of those joints. In essence, the sartorius allows you to cross your legs. The word sartorius comes from the word sartor, which is a tailor. Tailors have to cross their legs in order to get down low enough to measure inseams and things of clothing. So that's how it got its name. There's a group of muscles on the medial aspect, so this would be more of the medial portion of the thigh, which are adductors. So there's actually three adductor muscles in here. One's called the adductor longus, another one's the adductor brevis, and then there's one called the adductor magnus. Collectively, they're going to pull that femur towards the midline. So if you move something towards the midline, you are an adductor. This is a posterior view of the gluteal region. We've probably heard of the gluteus maximus, so that's this large muscle here. Its actions include extending the leg at the hip, but also laterally rotating the thigh, so you can twist your thigh away from the body using this muscle. Underneath it, which we see a little of it here, is the gluteus medius. So you have the maximus, medius, and then even deep to it is a muscle called the gluteus minimus. The gluteus medius helps to abduct, so moves that thigh or leg away, and medially rotates the femur or thigh. In this view, we're looking more at the thigh, but the posterior thigh. We've cut away the gluteus maximus. We've cut away the gluteus medius. And if you were to do that, you would find this guy here, which is the gluteus minimus. So those gluteal muscles are actually 3 layers: minimus, medius, and maximus. The minimus abducts and laterally rotates the femur or thigh. Then we go into the posterior thigh, where we find the 3 hamstrings. Hamstrings we often think of as being antagonistic to the quadriceps femoris muscles. So if those quadriceps in the front extended the knee and flexed the hip, your hamstrings do the complete opposite. They're going to extend the hip and flex the knee. Your 3 hamstrings include the semitendinosus, the semimembranosus, and the biceps femoris. Biceps femoris is a bicep. It actually has 2 origins. But it is located more in the lateral posterior compartment. The 2 semis are located more on the medial posterior compartment. So how can you tell the difference between the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus? Well, the semitendinosus is named based on the fact that it has this long tendon here. The semimembranosus is named because it's very flat and lies underneath the tendinosus. So typically when there's ever a book or some drawing of these muscles, the semimembranosus is pointed out here along this side, but also a little bit of it here because it is wider than this tendon. So you see it on each side of the semitendinosus. So let me repeat. These are the hamstrings. Hamstrings extend the thigh, whereas quadriceps flexed the thigh. And hamstrings flex the knee, where quadriceps extended the knee. Best way to understand this is use the muscles you have. Move your knee, flex your knee, extend your knee, see what muscles are contracting. Same thing with your hip. Flex your hip, extend your hip, and see what muscles are contracting in your thigh. Best advice I can give you. Below the knee is your leg. So this is an anterior view of the leg. We're going to learn that there's a muscle in front of the tibia. It's known as the tibialis anterior. There's also one behind the tibia, tibialis posterior. But the tibialis anterior is going to dorsiflex and invert your foot. This is done using joints at the ankle. But if you remember, dorsiflexion is when you leave your heel on the ground and lift your foot up. And then inverting is when you turn the inside of the foot up and face the sole of your foot towards the midline. That would be inverting. There's another muscle called the extensor digitorum longus. There's also a brevis, but the longus is going to go into the digits, the toes, and extend them. Extending your toes is straightening them out. Flexing your toes is curling them under. Here's a lateral view. So this is an outer view of the leg. Notice we see a portion of the fibula. This would be the lateral malleolus of the fibula. These two muscles are named based on that bone. You have a fibularis, longus, and brevis. These are also known as peroneus muscles. Peroneus longus and peroneus brevis. This is the longer one, the peroneus longus. Here's the shorter one, the peroneus brevis. What they do is they plantar flex and evert the foot. So plantar flexion is, in essence, standing up on your tippy toes. And everting is lifting that outside of the foot off the ground, facing your sole away. Finally, the posterior leg. You're going to find the gastrocnemius, which has two heads to it, a lateral head and a medial head. This is often called the calf muscle. Gastrocnemius actually means stomach of the leg because it has a large belly to it, a large muscular portion. It's going to plantar flex. It's your strongest plantar flexor. Again, plantar flexion is lifting the heel off the ground or standing up on your tippy toes. Deep to the gastrocnemius, there's a muscle called the soleus, and you see a little of it on each side of the gastrocnemius. It's synergistic in that it also plantar flexes. In fact, these two muscles all share a single tendon called the calcaneal tendon or Achilles tendon. That's a very strong tendon that attaches to the calcaneus and lifts the calcaneus off the ground. And when you lift your calcaneus off the ground, that is known as plantar flexion. This last slide is a summary, and I think we'll do this in a separate video. But this is going to summarize a lot of the actions at different joints. It might help us group muscles into antagonists and synergists. So this will be kind of a review of a lot of your major muscles, but we'll do that on a separate video.